My name's Mike Thompson, and I'm the triad coordinator here in Madison with RSVP. We're fortunate to have Christy Bacchus with us from the Wisconsin Bike Fed. And we're also very fortunate to have Jim Jenkins, who's one of our triad committee volunteers, and he's a very experienced cyclist and knows a lot about the trails here in the Madison, Dane County area. And so Jim's going to chime in whenever we need a little trail information and whatnot, and we'll have a little presentation toward the end. First off, though, let me switch over to Michelle. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into biking, how you're such a fanatic, and a little bit more about Wisconsin Bike Fed, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. And thanks everyone for having me and joining us this morning. I'm in Appleton, and around here, it's a beautiful day to be out biking. So if it's the same there, I really appreciate you being inside with us instead of out there pedaling for now. So I work for the Wisconsin Bike Fed, as Mike mentioned. I've been with the Bike Fed for about 5 years. I started biking when I was about 2 years old, though. My dad loved biking, and I used to ride around with him in the wire basket on the front of his handlebars. And I think we went over the railroad tracks one too many times, and I decided, I think I better start pedaling my own bike. So that was the start of it, and I just really never stopped. My dad was an instigator, racing me up hills and things like that to make it fun. So, and now I like to bike to improve our sense of community, to connect with people who are, planting flowers or cooking out or whatever around the community, just to say hi. And I like to travel by bike. So you'll get a little glimpse of some of my travels, which you can see here. I know this is the west coast of west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. And there are a couple other photos in my presentation, but we can talk more about travel later. The things that we're going to talk about today are focusing on what will keep you safe when you're biking, whether you're biking at home or anywhere you go. These are just like human nature things. They're things that are tried and true all over the world, and just simple little aha things that'll help you feel confident and relaxed on your bikes. So shall we get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get rolling. Looks like we have 15 of us right now, so we're ready to go.
That sounds great. And as we go, if anyone has questions, if you're comfortable typing them in the comments, go ahead and do that. Mike's going to moderate for us, and he'll let me know your question as it comes up. I'll either be able to answer it, or I'll say, we have that coming up in the next couple slides. Or if you're not comfortable with the comments, then you can go ahead and just ask your question, or jot it down on a piece of paper so you don't forget it. Okay?
That sounds good.
Good. So biking at 50 plus, what does it look like? Why do we even get on our bikes? Why do we have our bikes? Why do we take our bikes off those hooks in the garage? There's so many reasons. I love to just bike around town, take that bike out for a spin to the convenience store. I was telling Mike and Jim before everybody got on that if I need butter and I've got a spare 30 minutes, I don't put it on my grocery list. I put myself on my bike and I go get it, and I come back. And it gives me a chance to connect with people as I go, and just make people smile along the way. But there's so many reasons for biking. We can really build our legacy as community members through environmental impact and just kindness by getting out there and putting our smiling faces in front of everybody. But biking really can be anything you want it to. This is your trip. It's your bike. It's your choice. So do what you want with your bike, whether you get done with dinner and you pedal around the block once, that's fine. You're just getting out there and getting started. Or maybe you want to go down to a trail, put your bike on the car and go down to a trail, that's fine. Or just pedal to the park. But next time you pedal to the park, remember there are other people coming to that very same park from all these other directions. So maybe try out the different direction before you go home. So we're going to talk about all of these different things today. choosing the right bike that makes you comfortable, how to quickly, simply take care of it and know when you need to bring it in, how far it is to get places. I mean, really, let's think about that. Preparing yourself, the rules of the road that'll help you stay safe and confident, and then some just general helpful hints. So the one thing that we really, really, really want to all take out of this time together this morning is that the best thing we can do on our bikes is be our own best ambassadors. So we are kind of preaching to the choir here, right? We all like bikes or we wouldn't be here. So this is our opportunity to think about how we can impact all of those around us who really don't know much about people biking or bikes and haven't really thought about it. We're all people using the roads just in our own different ways. So when we pass somebody driving or somebody does something nice for us, we give like this little guy here on his bike, give him a thumbs up for a good job. Yeah, they're supposed to move over, but when they do something nice, give them a thumbs up for a good job and give them a little wave for a thank you. I always have a smile on. I like to make people wonder what the heck I'm up to. And then I also just simply following the rules of the road and being happy. So you can put your best effort into things. I love this photo. The little kid on the bike giving a thumbs up to the semi driver. That's confidence, isn't it?
Yep.
So here we go. Let's choose our bikes. Does everybody have a bike here? Probably. Do you ride it all the time, or could you ride it more if you were more comfortable on it? Maybe. So let's look at ways we could be more comfortable and some new style bikes that are out there. There's the athletic style bike. Maybe we have those when we're kids. And then we start going into a city bike or a cruiser, a mountain bike, old mountain bike style where you have the still somewhat of an incline here. But there are also relaxed bikes and they're very, very upright. These are so comfortable to ride. So pick what style works best for you. In my travels, I rode an old 20-year-old mountain bike and it was about the 60-degree lean forward. And when I got back, I hadn't driven a car for 3 months. And when I sat in my car and I got ready to go, I leaned forward to turn the key and I was leaning at that same 60-degree as I was ready to go. So that's how I know exactly what that was. But whatever makes you comfortable and confident, they're out there. So some of the new bikes, there are step through frames. So get something with a low bar here, low top bar. Some of the mountain bikes, even this little bit here, it makes a difference. If when you go for a new bike, you go a little bit lower, you can always lean the bike to the side to step over the frame too. There are cargo bikes. I actually have this bike in white. These are designed to carry a little bit heavier load. So if I like to pick things up when I go by bike. I go to the grocery store. This is my minivan or my pickup truck, but you can attach bags here and put some books in there or a chair and go to the park. You can also do it with a regular bike by putting a rack on the back. Just about any bike can hold a rack. And fat tire bikes, if you're looking for something fun, these are super, super easy to ride and they're really fun to ride. If you have a few hours, or an hour or 30 minutes, go down to your local bike shop and ask if you could test ride a fat bike. Ask if you can test ride an e-bike. You don't have to buy them, just go try them out for fun. But e-bikes are also, they're real bikes. It's a real thing. It's not cheating. They're very good, very helpful, helping you get around the last few miles or getting somewhere a little less sweaty. So a lot of new fun bikes that are out there these days. And choose the right bike for you. So this is the bike. This is my 20-year-old Schwinn mountain bike. And here, that's the one I took to Australia. And I pedaled around Australia for 3 months. This is my tent and sleeping bag. And I put my food and clothes down here. And I just pulled it along behind me. And it took me great places like this. This is at Wilson's Prom, and this is Wineglass Bay. That bike, I didn't have to buy anything special. You don't have to do anything special. You just have to be willing to go. And here's a lady that I met in Australia. I put this in because I love this picture. She was bike touring, not on that bike, but this is a fat tire cargo electric bike. What a combination. Isn't it a beautiful mural behind her? So she is in Christchurch, New Zealand. Just a lovely lady. She was bike touring. She's probably 60 years old, and this is one of her bikes. She has a couple. But I met her, she was out traveling locally, staying overnight at some Airbnbs or campgrounds or whatever. So once you get the bike that you want, or the bike out of the garage, do a little check over before you go, because when you go somewhere, you want to be sure you come back. ABC, air, brakes, and chains. So check the air in your tires, put a little pump in there. It's easy to do, something fun to practice it at home before you go, or in the evening. Just practice pumping up your tires and letting the air out. Pump them up again and let the air out. If you're not confident with the pump, it's an easy way to get familiar with it. Roll your bike forward and squeeze the left brake, and roll your bike backward and squeeze the right brake. That'll make sure your brakes work properly. And if you can pedal smoothly backwards, your chain and your gears are working well. If you start to see your chain looking black or dirty, take it in or clean it yourself. Spray a little oil on there, and then use a t-shirt type rag and wipe it all off as you pedal backwards. Super easy to do. And that will help your chain not fall off. Your quick releases should be folded up tightly against your bike, not out even a little bit. You should have to use the palm of your hand, not your fingers. The palm of your hand to shut those quick releases, and that's enough pressure to keep them.
And does everybody know what a quick release is here? Maybe you should touch on that.
Sure. Good point. Thank you, Jim. So quick releases are often on the wheels or on the seat post of the bike. So those are little levers that you fold out, and then you can take your wheel off, or you can fold out and adjust your seat up or down. Not all bikes have them, but if you do, you want to make sure they're pressed up tightly against the bike. And if you have the option, generally, if they're folded backwards towards the back of the bike is best. Then you don't get caught on anything. Mm-hmm. So we got our bike, we're ready to go. It's all checked over. Takes about 90 seconds before you get on it. Let's really think about how far is it to go somewhere. So one of the things that I do when I'm traveling is I will put in the locations on my map, and I'll look at it, and I'll say, okay, I'll print my map. I'll take a screenshot. It'll take me an hour and 11 minutes to get from where I'm staying or where I am to the cafe I want to go to, and where do I want to stop along the way. So here we've got Madison. We've got the Botanical Gardens over here. And we have got Hilldale Shopping Center over here. They've got some nice restaurants. There's a Target over there, right? And a Title IX store. So there's some fun places to go there. You can see it takes 52 minutes. It's 9.6 miles. You can see when you use Google Maps, you get in the bike mode, you get the elevation even. So you can tell it's not very hilly at all on this particular ride. Your range is 830 feet to 860 feet. So you have a 30-foot, that's it, 30-foot elevation change. And you can see this for all your rides if you want to use Google Maps. So what this tells me is if we put ourselves right in the middle of Madison, in the middle of this 45-minute ride, and we instead go out any direction, that same distance, right? Like a star, an asterisk, you're about 4 miles or 20 minutes from anywhere you want to go in Madison. 20 minutes. Who can't do that by bike, right? We can all do that. Righty. So I don't know how many people use Google Maps. I use it on my phone. You don't have to have Wi-Fi to use Google Maps to actually look at the map to know where you are. But when you use Google Maps, there's this little page thing here on your phone. When you click on that, it'll pop up these map type options. And you make sure, see mine has the blue frame around bicycling, and see those green lines there? That means it's going to show me the bike trails. So that's pretty cool. And then when you pull up your maps, you have all the bike trails on them. So you know exactly where you can go. You can look at it the night before and think about where you want to go the next day and just go to a different area where there's a nice trail through a park. And if you don't want to pedal from your house to that trail, there are options. You can get a bike rack that's real easy to use. This is that, remember the green bike I showed you at the beginning? And I said, I have a white one just like it.
Mhm.
This is that Yuba cargo bike. And I put this big basket on the back. Actually, it's for my dog, but it's like a shopping cart. So I can take this to the grocery store. This bike is heavier. Oops. This bike is heavier than most bikes out there. It's built to be sturdy, so it's 40 some pounds. But when you load your bike, which is probably really super light at maybe not even 10 pounds, you can put the front wheel in a rack and just lean it towards the car, and then you can lift the back wheel onto the rack. So you don't feel like you have to pick up your entire bike and put it on a rack. Make it easy on yourself and just load the front wheel and then lean and walk around and load the back wheel.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we can talk more about any of these things later if you want more details or have questions on racks. So when you're going by bike, you decide to go from the Botanical Gardens to Hilldale or from your house to the Botanical Gardens. When you're going there, it's really important to think about how you go there by car and think, how can I get there by bike? So you may not take the same streets, and you shouldn't rule out going by bike just because the streets you take with your car are super busy and the traffic's moving really fast and you're not comfortable biking there. Every single busy street, almost every single busy street, has a super quiet side street right parallel to it. So you just hop over one block and you've got a nice casual ride and you skip all that busy traffic. And Jim's going to talk later about all the nice trails. You guys in Madison, you have such a beautiful trail network. But remember, quiet side streets, quiet side streets. So when you're getting ready to go, the number one thing that I always remember, and it helps me when I'm touring, when I'm traveling by bike, is wherever I'm going, there are people who live nearby there. So there's nothing that I'm going to need that I can't get. So I don't have to bring everything with me, and I don't have to not go because I don't know if I have what I need, because it's going to be almost everywhere you go, right? So things that I do bring, I make sure my water bottle, my nutrition, clothing, helmet, seats, phone. So we'll talk a little bit about each of these. With your water bottle, anytime you pass a water fountain, I don't even know if they're turned on these days, but bring a water bottle with you. Anytime you have an opportunity to fill your water bottle, take it. If your water bottle is half full, you drank half of it, just top it off. That way you know you're never going to run out. Nutrition, I keep a backup snack. I always keep a backup snack. And you know what? It's usually one of my favorite things. So I have got a specific granola or a specific chocolate bar that I like. And I'll always keep that in my bag. Even in the summertime, I know the chocolate melts, but it's usually stays pretty good in the bike. And that way, when I feel like I need a snack, or I'm getting a little bit tired, I'll just crack open my snack, and that just perks me right up. Another fun thing to do with nutrition is to look along your route. I've been talking about this for about 5 years, so I think we're getting more and more of these, but look for fruit trees along the ride. Look for fruit trees along the road. Some people will eat an apple and they've tossed the apple core out the window over the decades past and past way back when. Now there's an apple tree growing there. So stop along the way, pick an apple and eat it. I always kept a little snack bag on my handlebars, and I filled it with berries or apples or whatever along the way when I was pedaling, when I'm touring. So it's one of my best memories is to follow the seasons with the fruit.
Michelle, there was one, let me break in here just a quick second here. Someone sent me a note and said, you know, that route from Hilldale out to Old Brick, that runs right along Midvale Boulevard and University and blah, blah, blah. You know, sometimes, you know, these routes that the computer is choosing may not be looking into the one that results in the lowest fatalities, right? So
Correct.
I think it's important that you prepare, you know, when you're going, you know, out through the middle of the city, right? Because there are, you know, like the Kendall Avenue bike path, right? I mean, the entire street basically is a bike boulevard and it parallels University Avenue. And so preparing is extremely important, you know, when you're out there.
And I'll get into this in a bit too, but there are trails that also duplicate that ride. And, you know, sometimes they might be a little bit longer in distance, but much more relaxed and much safer, and often take you through prettier areas. So we'll talk about that in a bit.
Usually hillier areas, Jim.
They could be.
Pardon me?
Usually hillier areas, like the Kendall Avenue bike boulevard that goes up and down those hills along, whereas University Avenue's been flattened so that it's nice and fast to get downtown.
Yeah.
I ride an e-bike, so what hills?
E-bikes flatten those hills real quickly. So
Yeah,
actually, I went back to the screen with the route from the Botanical Gardens to Hilldale. And if you look, can you see my cursor?
Oh, yeah.
This route is actually the Capital City Bike Trail. And it's 8.1 miles. And that bike trail along that entire route, your bike trail all the way. So you just have street crossings to work with. You only have an elevation change of 30 feet. And it's primarily just in this one little spot. So yeah, remember, even if this route, so I had it in bike mode, so it put me on the trail.
Yeah.
Even if it is on University or if it is on one of the busy streets, it's giving you the direction, it's giving you the distance. And know that if that street, you start to pedal down it, you're like, I'm not real comfortable here. Don't stay there. You want to bike only where you're comfortable and confident. Don't stay on the busy streets. Just move over a block. And even if it takes you a few minutes longer, just relax. Like, okay, I'm in a good spot now. And enjoy your ride.
Yeah, good advice. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Alrighty. So, okay, clothing. For those of us who may be thinking, okay, well, I want to take a bike ride, but I think I've got to get those bike shorts, those Lycra, the stretchy pants. I'm going to wait until I lose weight. I'm going to wait till I build some muscle. I'm going to wait until whatever so that I can go buy my stretchy pants and then I'll ride my bike. You don't need stretchy pants and you don't need to wait. You don't need to worry about it. I have pedaled and pedaled and pedaled, and I've never a day in my life worn the stretchy pants with the cushy butt. So you're fine. Just work your way up to it. Take a short ride. One thing that's really helpful is if you don't sit on your bike seat the way you sit on a chair, right? So when you're sitting on your bike seat, you don't settle into that bike seat and feel, you know, I'm going to hang out here and be comfortable. It's not a recliner. It's just a place to put your hinder while you're riding your bike. So try to pull your tummy in a little bit and then sit more on your sit bones. Does everybody know what their sit bones are?
No.
There are two bones at the end of your spine. There are two bones. So if you sit backwards, you can feel yourself sitting on your sit bones. So try to put those on the back of your seat and then lift your tummy up. You can always shift a little bit to be more comfortable and confident. but you'll be fine. Start with small rides and take it easy. Just don't treat your bike seat like a recliner. It's a perch, that's it. If you're so inclined, they do have other seats out there too that are meant to be like sat on, and you can get one of those. Find the right one. There's lots of options, lots of options. All righty, helmets. Does everybody wear a helmet? Everybody raise your hand. Yay, Jane does. Yay, good, good. Helmets are really, really important. Because if you break your arm, the doctor can fix it, right? But if you break your head, those aren't so easily fixable. So please wear your helmets. Biking is the second safest mode of transportation in the entire world. It's very safe. And when you care enough to take the time to think about the safety, that's why we're here together, right? So you're going to be extra safe. But if something strange does happen, even if you topple over, it's okay, but have your helmet on to prevent anything. When you wear your helmet, it's important to fit it properly. So you want your helmet nice and level. So 2 fingers touch your eyebrow and the helmet at the same time. If you wear your helmet back like this, it's really not protecting the moneymaker here, right? You got to keep your helmet nice and level. And the strap doesn't have to be tight. That strap, you should be able to put 2 fingers in it. Can you, oh, I have my hair tied. Yeah. If you can turn your fingers up and down, it's too loose. Put them flat like this, you're fine. And there's a plastic piece on the side. It goes right by your ear, so it creates a nice V right there. That plastic piece goes right here, not down at the bottom of your chin strap, making that V big like this. So bring your helmet in next time you're watching Wheel of Fortune. When we're all sitting at the TV tonight, I always watch Wheel of Fortune or whatever your show is. Bring your helmet in and sit there after you've got the puzzle solved and just monkey with your helmet a little bit. But the most important thing is just to relax. Relax and enjoy your ride. It's just a bike and it's your ride. So you do what you want. How's everybody doing so far? Is this a good pace and everybody happy and comfortable and confident here? Good. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we're going to talk about the rules of the road. These are rules of the road that are common sense. Some of them are the law, and they will be the things that help you interact with other road users and feel comfortable. So this is a really important one. Does anyone here know John Forster? Did anybody know? So cyclists fare best when they act like and are treated as drivers of vehicles. Why is that? It's because in Wisconsin and in most places, a bicycle is a legal vehicle. It's a legal vehicle. So you have the same rights, you have the same responsibilities, just a different engine. So same rights, same responsibilities, different engine. So let's look at the rules of the road and how we can be our own best advocate while we go through them. All righty. So we are going to ride in the road whenever possible, whenever we're confident and comfortable. We're not going to ride on the busy streets. And for each person, that varies. I may be really comfortable on a super busy street, and my husband is not. He will not ride. So we always take the quiet roads or the alleyways when I ride with him. But when you ride in the street, whether it's a quiet neighborhood street or whatever, a bike lane, you ride in the same direction as other traffic. You're a legal vehicle. You obey all traffic signs and signals. Mike, did you have a question?
I got a query about helmets. It says, how old is too old for a helmet? Can you be too old for a helmet? Your head
like
already.
Helmet age or person age? Helmet age, helmets last about 2 to 3 years. And there's a sticker, mine are all outside or back at the back door, but there's a sticker inside them that has their born on date. So if they're in the box, that's okay. But once you start wearing them out in the sun and the heat, the material starts to lose its integrity. So it won't do as good of a job. So about 2 to 3 years. Get a new helmet each year. They're fun anyway. Get something in a different color. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, my biggest panic is that I'm going to have a flat on the road, you
Yeah.
know? I
Yep.
mean, what a pain in the neck that would be. And so, how often should you have your inner tubes changed? I mean, what's the usual? I mean, mine have been working fine, but they must be drying out somewhere, right?
They could be. Yeah, they could be. So when you are filling your tires with air, um, a slow leak like that would indicate wearing out, right?
Yeah.
So they may
Mhm.
have a crack in the tire, or you may have something puncturing them. So if you realize when you squeeze your tire and you depress your thumb into it every single day, like, oh, I'm having to put air in my tires every day, take it to the shop or take it apart and do it yourself.
Uh-huh.
But you take it in and have somebody look at it. Um, you could get a flat. It can happen, but when's the last time you got a flat on your car?
I have
Yeah, not well, don't
run
answer that if
flat
it was
tires.
yesterday, Mike. So in our lifetime, how many times do we get a flat in our car? It's kind of the same thing with the bike. If
Mhm.
you keep your bike tires filled with air, you won't get that pinched flat. You'll be less likely to get a flat.
Mhm.
Um, if
I
you,
got one flat a year, no, 6 months ago,
uh-huh.
and I happened to be right in front of a bike shop.
Mm,
So that was my experience. I took it in 20 minutes. They had a new tire on it, so
mhm.
I was lucky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if we go back to that map of Madison, remember it was 10 miles or 8 miles all the way across. You know how many bike shops there are in Madison? There are oodles of them, and they'll come help you. So you're at any given time, you're probably 2 miles from any bike shop. So
Okay,
um,
thank you.
yeah, of course, of course. And people passing by, they'll stop and help you too. People love, love, love to help. They love to help. So,
This was the funniest story ever. My wife had just gotten a new bike and she was riding back and forth to work. And she had somehow thrown the chain off right in front of the Cadillac dealer, right across, on the frontage road. And she walks her bike over to the Cadillac dealer and says, "Could anybody help me?" And here are all these salesmen, in white shirt and tie. And this one guy says, "Well, okay, no problem." He only went and got a rag and he helped her get the chain back up on her crank, and she's on her road. It was a great interaction.
mhm. Yeah, good story. Good story. So the rules of the road, we'll keep going down through and, pick up the pace a little bit. I don't know how I'm doing on time, Mike. Is everybody hanging in there?
Oh yeah, we're hanging in there.
Okay.
10:36. Plenty of
Okay.
time.
Okay, thanks. Um, so obeying all traffic signs and signals. So when do we stop at a stop sign when we're on our bikes? When do we stop at the stop signs?
All the time.
All the time, every time. And remember that very first slide, the very first slide where I said with a little kid giving the thumbs up to the semi driver, that was about being our own best advocates. We just got done talking about people and helping, and people like to help other people. So being our own best advocates and representing the bike community the right way makes people want to help even more. You'll get a good feeling when you do that.
Mhm.
Use your hand signals 100 to 50 feet before turning. So the very most important thing is using a hand signal or what? Or controlling your bike. If it's a windy day and you've got stuff on your bike, it's way more important to control your bike than to take your hand off the handlebars and do a hand signal. There are other ways you can let people know where you're going. Anytime you look around like this, if you're driving your car and you see somebody on a bike looking like this, what do you think they're going to do? They're making a move, right?
Yeah.
So people think the same thing when you do it. So that works as well.
One thing that I'm thinking about is, we have a lot of walkers here, and we use the same lanes often on, streets without sidewalks. And there are a lot of streets without sidewalks here. And so good interaction between bikes and pedestrians is really important. Sometimes these guys go whipping by me while I'm walking, and it's like really kind of scary that they're not watching out for me a little bit.
Right. It'd be nice if everyone was their own best advocate, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, one thing that I find important is to just announce when you're coming up behind a walker or a biker or anybody that's on a trail or on the street, is just say passing, or passing on the left, passing on the right. And actually, some people jump out of their skin when they hear you say that. You can really panic people, but usually I think it's a good practice to do, so people know you're coming up behind them, and then give them plenty of room.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that too as we go. I think we'll skip on to the next slides here. So when we'll talk about that a little bit, about sharing trails and lanes with people walking. Let's do the bike lanes here. Wow. Just because there's a bike lane, does that mean you have to use it? No, you don't have to. If you're on a bike, when you're on a bike, you want to stay 3 feet from any hazards on your right. 3 feet between you and any hazards on your right. Potholes, piles of leaves, I don't know, puddles. Don't ever, riding through puddles. You want to leave 3 feet. So here in this bike lane, you don't want to be in there. I know Jim said he rides in the winter. We don't all ride in the winter, but this could be other debris, or maybe there was construction and there's dirt in the bike lane. So here in this situation, you're going to ride out here. Or if we're not comfortable on the road, where do we ride? One street over. Just find a different street. It's okay. So your hand signals, we talked a little bit about these. You can use this for your right turn, but what we're teaching now is just to point the direction you want to go. If you want to turn right, you point right. And when I do, I know I'm so close, so you can't really see, but when I do my hand signals, throw in a little bit of a jazz hand there. Just point, move your fingers, move, just like tell them where you're going to go. We have our cars and our turn signals in our cars, and those are also called our blinkers because they catch people's attention. So make your hands blink, whatever it is, if it's just your fingers, and it makes people smile too. Headlights, if you get stuck out at night, you can always use a flashlight and a rubber band. Hook it right onto the handlebars. Does anybody know what these are? These are called sharrows. And communities paint them on the road when it's a common bike route. It's a route that a lot of people like to take by bike, but there's not enough space in the lanes to actually create a bike lane. So they put sharrows down. They're sharing arrows. And where you're supposed to bike is right down this point of the arrows. That they're positioned that way so that if somebody's getting out of this car and they open the door, you are riding in a straight line connecting those arrow points, and you're outside that door zone. So that's why they seem to be out in the middle of the road sometimes. Your lane position, when you are on the right side of the lane, 3 feet from the edge or any hazards on your right, you're probably going to go straight or turn right. If you're in the center, you definitely are discouraging people from turning right around you. If it's a common place where people might be turning right around you, stay in the center of that lane at the stop sign. It's okay. People will be patient. You can even smile and wave to them and they'll understand. You need to protect the space around you, and don't be worried about doing that. If you're going to make a left turn, never turn left from the right lane, because people driving will come around you, right? So you want to be on the left side of the lane. And that's okay, because then people going straight can go to the right side of you while you wait to make your turn. You know what? It's just like you would do it in your car, right? Exactly the same. I think this is something that takes a little longer to do, but the place to practice this isn't when you need it. It's on those quiet side streets in a neighborhood where you're comfortable. Build your confidence and then work your way into any situation you want to test. So here, if we had some time, we're going to talk about equipment we can use to make ourselves visible, habits we can develop, things to help us be visible. So when you're driving your car, where do you spend most of your time looking? It's out your front windshield, right? So you spend 90% of your time looking at that front windshield. So when you're riding your bike, don't stay so far over to the right that you're risking hitting the curb with your pedal. Move over a little bit so that people driving can see you out of their front windshield. So stay 3 feet from any of the hazards on your right. Of course, we've got those nice bike paths and trails, shared use paths that we'll use. But when you're on the road, start getting comfortable staying not so far to the right. You want to stay as far to the right as practicable, not as far to the right as possible. And when we go out for that cup of coffee, we need to lock up our bike. Lock up a wheel and the frame to a secure item or a secure location. This, if the post truly ended here, we wouldn't want to do this, would we?
No.
Because somebody would lift that bike right over the top of the post and bye-bye. Bye-bye. There goes Jim's new electric bike. So lock it
You'd
up.
have to be pretty strong to lift my electric bike over that post. It's not light.
That's good. Yeah. So find something secure, get a wheel and a frame and lock them up together. Even if you have a really simple, easy, not super strong industrial lock, it's better to do something because most bike thefts, and I work with a lot of police departments, most bike thefts are nothing but a matter of convenience. So people just don't want to walk from the next 3-4 miles. So there's a bike leaning there, they'll just grab it and pedal it and ditch it at the Walmart or wherever down the road, Walgreens or wherever they're going. So if you just have a little lock there to discourage people, it's a good idea. So here's another slide with, this is a trip. This is the South Island, the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. So over there, we ride on the left side of the road. And this is my friend. She was bike touring she's from France. She went over here so I could take her picture. She wanted her picture taken. But this road goes in and out and weaves in and out around these mountains. And these rules of the road and these common sense things, the little thumbs up and the wave, it works. And it's a, you know, they work on a 2-lane highway and they work on a residential neighborhood. And they just put a smile on other people's faces when they see that you care enough to communicate and share the space respectfully with everybody. We talked a little bit about the door zone. We've got like 5 slides left, 3 to 5 slides left on biking. We talked a little bit about the door zone. So when you ride past a car, the Bike Fed worked really, really, really hard to make it a law that if somebody opens their car door, it's the driver's fault of that car if you are pedaling and they hit you. It's not your fault anymore if you're on your bike, but it still hurts. It's still, so leave the space. Don't hug those cars. You never know. So please give the space 3 to 5 feet. Riding 2 abreast. Can you ride side by side with your friend and chat when you're on your bike? Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as you're not impeding traffic. And if 1 car, 2 cars have to slow down and go around you, you're not impeding traffic. That's when you're blocking traffic like 3 blocks back. So you can ride 2 abreast. I do separate and go single file when we've got cars passing and just give them a little thumbs up and a wave saying, thanks for being patient with me. People appreciate it. Oops, wrong way. Red traffic signal. After you wait 45 seconds, you don't have to wait for the light to change, just in case we have any early birds. They like to put those traffic lights to a different timing overnight. I used to get up in the morning and do some hot air ballooning with a friend of mine. And when I would bike to our launch site, all the stoplights were like I have to wait forever. but you don't. After 45 seconds, if there's nothing coming, you can go. So here's the shared use paths. And the same thing applies when people are walking, because when people, we'll talk about next walking, people are walking, they walk on the opposite side of the street facing traffic. So you may have seen that. If there's no sidewalk, they walk in the street facing traffic. Or if we're on a shared use path, just slowing down, go about the pace of people walking. And I just like to holler up like, hi, how are you? And then they turn around, they feel already, they feel like, oh, that's somebody I know. They feel friendly, right? And then they turn around to see where you are or who's coming. Some people like on your left, and then people walking, I don't know, am I supposed to step left? Your brain just connects and steps left, and then they're on the left, and oh, we're so confused. So I just say hello, and they turn around, and I'm like, you're fine. I just didn't want to startle you. And then I slowly go around and pick up my speed when I go. So I just let them know, you're fine, no problems.
When you're on a bike path and you're walking, do you walk against traffic or with traffic on the trail?
You walk on the right. Yeah.
So
You walk
with
on the right.
traffic.
So you're walking with traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're on the road and people are walking on the road where there are no sidewalks, they're
Right.
walking facing traffic, but we're on a trail, we walk on the right with traffic. So we have both scenarios.
Okay.
Yeah. So riding on the sidewalks. Sidewalks are not the side paths. They're not the 10-foot wide walks, right? These are sidewalks, the standard sidewalks. Those are meant for people walking. People walking, which is nearly everybody, right? Everybody walks, whether it's from the car to the supermarket or whether it's down the sidewalk. Sidewalks are meant for people walking. People walking go about 2 to 4 miles per hour. So it's nice and slowly. When you're biking, you're going an average of 8 to 12 miles per hour. Anything less than 8 miles per hour, you got to work to stay upright because you could tip over, you're going so slowly. But think about the difference in speed there. So when you're on, if you feel you need to ride your bike on the sidewalk, if you feel like it's the only option until you get to a turn where you can take a quiet side street, make sure that you slow down, get more close to the pace of people walking, because think about the last time you drove your car and you came to an intersection. You're going to make that left-hand turn. You looked left, you looked right, you looked left again, you looked for oncoming traffic. You're ready to turn left. How far down the sidewalk did you look? Most people only look on the corners for people crossing. So when you're riding your bike, if you feel you have to be on the sidewalk, slow down to about the pace of people walking, because people driving are looking way down the sidewalk for you to come. And then also sidewalks are bi-directional. So you could be coming from the other way. When's the last time you looked over your shoulder and way down the sidewalk before you turned? So be real careful if you're riding your bike on the sidewalk. Go for those trails, which Jim's going to tell you about later. You've got a lot of beautiful trails, but if you need to be on the sidewalk to connect, that's where you're confident, then slow down real nice and easy pace, and always keep your head on a swivel. So do we have time to go through the people walking quickly?
Sure.
Okay, cool. And we'll talk about any questions you have at the end for biking too, if you didn't have any that popped up. The basics for walking: before you cross, you look left, right, left again, and all around. So I always tell people, look all 4 directions. Walk on the sidewalk. And when there's no sidewalk, we already talked about walking facing traffic in the road. So where can we be extra careful? Intersections where people are backing their vehicles, where drivers just naturally won't see you as well. A lot of people feel comfortable and more confident when they aren't seen. So to hide behind something, to hide behind a parked car, to hide behind a corner and peek around for cars, it's real important to try to make at least some of you visible so you're not startling or surprising anybody driving. So this is my number one tip for people walking. There are two tips. This is part one. Toes and nose. If you want people driving to stop for you when you're crossing the street, you have to show intent to cross. So if you're standing back here, people don't know you're crossing. If you're leaning against the light post, people don't know you're crossing. But if you go right up on the edge and just put your toes and your nose in the street, not your whole body, and you look and make eye contact with people driving, they'll know you want to cross the street and they'll be more inclined to stop. If they're not stopping, I do this. I put my hand up and I'm like, hey, and I wave to people and then they'll slow down. I'm like, cool, let's stop, please. And then they stop for me. Like, I want to cross the street. Very responsive. People get it then. They know that you really need to cross the street. And I give them a thumbs up and the wave for thank you. So that's tip number one, toes and nose. Wonder if I gave tip number two its own slide. I did. Tip number two, treat each lane of traffic like a new road. These are really valuable bits of information. These two bits of information, take them home, help young people cross the street, help groups of people cross the street. So here you can see this person stopped for the person walking. This lane is completely under control. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So right here is a new lane. You're not sure this person here can see you because this car might be blocking you, right? So when you get to the edge of this lane, it's the same thing, toes and nose. And hi, I want to cross the street. And then when they stop, then you move forward. So
in some places you'll see this zebra crossing here, but on the other side of the intersection, you know, on the, say, the right-hand side of this, it'll just be just two lines across the street. What's the difference
here
between this zebra crossing and the two lines, which looks like a walking path, I guess, across the street? What's the difference?
Yeah. Actually, there is no difference. There's no difference in how people driving should share the road with people walking. Mm-hmm. A legal crosswalk is anywhere where a sidewalk or the lack of sidewalk would continue on the opposite side for people walking. So this paint is put here to remind people driving where people walking are likely to be. So a crosswalk is any intersection where you need to cross. It's a continuation of a sidewalk, or if there are no sidewalks and you're walking in the street facing traffic, your crosswalk is in through the street on that opposite side of the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So people driving are legally required to stop for you in any of those situations at any marked or unmarked crosswalks. Doesn't mean they do. And we have to take care of ourselves. We're responsible for our own selves. We don't let people driving tell us, go ahead, go ahead. We need to look all four ways. But they're legally responsible for stopping for us. We'll give them a thumbs up and a thank you when they do, because everybody appreciates that. So my interesting story about this walking scenario is I was in St. Louis 3 years ago now. Gosh, was it 2 years ago? I was in St. Louis and I was walking around downtown looking for a cafe, coffee shop, whatever it may be. And I got to this street and there was a crowd of people. There were no stoplights at this street. There was just a crowd of people standing on the corner waiting to cross. I'm like, what is going on? Why aren't cars stopping? So I kind of went around and I did my toes and nose trick. And I then did the wave like, hey, we want to cross the street. Somebody stop for us. I'm like, cool, thank you. And I started to walk and everybody, it was like sheep, or cows, at the barn, everybody got to cross. And then I did the same thing. I'm like, wait, everybody, I did the same thing the other way. I'm like, hey, we want to cross the street. And they stopped. And the people driving were so happy to help. They were so happy to help. They smiled and waved at us all. Like, good job. Now you're not standing there. So it really, really, really works.
So I was going to mention that situation with the 2 lanes,
Uh-huh.
I got a ticket once because a car was in the left lane and I thought they were making a left-hand turn. I didn't realize it was a crosswalk for children. There were no cones at that time.
Yeah.
So the people were behind the van that was turning left, I thought.
Yep.
And so I went through the intersection and later got a ticket.
Yeah.
But you know, I didn't know it was a crosswalk and I didn't see the people and there was a van.
Yep.
So that was a really dangerous, you know, I mean, I could have hit someone. Luckily, I'm sure the crossing guard was watching too, but literally they were invisible.
Right.
So
Yep.
you really do have to stop for each lane.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks,
One of
Jane,
the
for sharing
confusing-
that.
One of the confusing things in Madison is that there are green crosswalks at trails, you know, when you come into the street. And very often there are flashing lights that you can activate that'll reinforce that people are supposed to stop. But right now it's not consistent. And if you have a 2-lane road where there's a green crossing and the car in the lane nearest you stops and honors that crossing, it doesn't mean that the car in the next lane or very often the pickup truck that's roaring through in the next lane is going to stop. Yeah. And so you've got to be real careful that you've got 2 lanes of traffic there. And, you know, always be aware of that.
That's a good tip.
Really good. Really good. So let's talk just 2 more points about that. So see this line back here? This is a stop line. And the reason the stop line is so far back from the crosswalk, and they're not always painted there, is because it impacts the field of vision. So this driver here, if he's looking at the curb for people walking or people starting to walk, see the angle? If this car in that first lane was back further, then the field of vision is less blocked, like Jane experienced. So the other thing is with those green crosswalks, how they're painted green, green doesn't mean go. Green bike lanes indicate a higher hazard or a higher volume of traffic area. So they paint them green so they stand out more to people driving, and they remind people biking that, you know, this is, you know, you're in traffic here, so just keep your heads up because there's more action here. Same thing with the crosswalks. Yeah, good discussion. Thank you. Oops. And here's Tony crossing in Milwaukee. Yeah, telling him thank you and holding traffic, taking responsibility for his own self there. So we're nearing the end here. And I think, you know, the most important thing about our time together today is just to make sure that you're confident and you're comfortable so you can relax and have fun. Find a friend, go to a local club, advocacy group. Madison Bikes has got a lot of great stuff out there. Search bike on Facebook. Does anybody do Facebook? If you do Facebook, just search the word bike and it'll go to your friends and it'll find anybody who's ridden a bike and posted about it. Check out Strava if you like to use the tech. That's a fun one. You'll find friends who have popped in there. Bike around a bike shop a little bit. Find fun places to go. You'll start to connect. I do a lot of chats at the Y. Does anybody have a YMCA or YWCA nearby? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who gather there and they're into fitness, so they'd love to try riding a bike and you can help them. If it's a hot day, pick a shady street. Don't take your regular route. Don't not go because it's sunny and hot. Take a different route. Cold days, I love. I know Jim does too, likes to ride in the wintertime. I love to ride in the wintertime. People, when I get to where I'm going, they're like, oh my gosh, aren't you cold? I'm like, I'm so hot. And they're standing there freezing in the grocery store and the restaurant to pick up their takeaway. And and I'm hot, your body's going to warm up so much faster than your car even will. My car won't even typically warm up by the time I get to where I normally go with my bike. Local bike maps. There are, if you don't like the tech, there are local bike maps everywhere. And if you go somewhere where you're like, why don't you have a local bike map? Find out where they are, grab some and drop them off at the other place, because other people are probably looking too, and you can help them. Visitor centers. Does anybody use visitor centers when they travel? You've got one right in your community. Go visit your own visitor center and find some new things to do. Make sure they have bike maps too. And anytime you see bike parking, start thinking, I'm going to go use that. Make that your destination. Show them you appreciate them having bike parking there. Stop and shop. Even if maybe you've only paddled 6 blocks, it's okay. Just stop and check out why, who put the rack there, who requested it, what shops are bike friendly, and encouraging people to go by bike. I do that, and I buy a lot of little things for the holidays, and I don't know if anybody else has had this trouble with stocking stuffers. Do you ever have kids or people that you do a stocking for and you're like at the last minute scrambling for stocking stuffers? No more, because now I'm going by bike and I'll stop in and I'll buy those little things every single time I'm out. I'll find something little. I've got boxes of them. The stockings are ready by August or September. Just a little side benefit. And that's really about it for now. I mean, I'm happy. There's so much more we can talk about. I could talk for hours. So if you have any questions or you just want to chat about anything, I'm happy to hang out and go from there. But thank you for riding your bike and joining us.
Margie, go ahead.
Yes. Are you really supposed to get off your bike to cross the street in an intersection and walk it across? No?
Nope. I always slow down so that I can do that at the pace of people walking. Unless I'm following a green light, then I want to stay at my regular speed. But no, you're not supposed to. In fact, when I'm riding my bike in the road through an intersection, even if I'm not pushing on the pedals, I keep my feet moving without pressure on those pedals, because that indicates to people looking at me that I'm not planning on stopping. So they need to stop and yield like they should.
But I mean, if you're in a crosswalk,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're, no, okay.
No,
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. You can ride through a crosswalk and still have right of way. Yeah. But
Okay.
slow down. Good question.
Who else? Feel free to chime in. We've got, if you have any trail questions, Jim's a very experienced bicyclist. He could answer quite a few if you have trail questions.
Yeah, what I can do, you know, I had a little PowerPoint too, but I can really cover most of it just real quickly here. We're really lucky here in town, in Madison and Dane County, to have one of the best trail systems in the country. And we consistently rank very highly among cities for bikeability. And that's because of this great trail system and because of very thoughtful bike lane design on the, you know, on our roadways, on our streets and roadways. And what I was going to show you, but I can just tell you about, is there's a website. Bike Madison has a website. And if you just Google Bike Madison or biking in Madison or whatever, it's going to come up, you know, right on top. And it's put together by the city. And it includes a mapping system where you can see all of the trails and all of the bike routes in the city. It has a plan your route system where, just like Michelle was showing us on Google, and maybe Google would work better. I'm not sure, I haven't tried that. But you put in your starting point and your destination, and you have your choice of 3 different routes. There's the most relaxing route, which is going to be less traffic, more use of trails and quiet streets. And then there's a middle route, and then there's a more I forget what it's called, but it's obvious when you look at it. It's probably the most direct route, but you're going to be on busy streets, and it's not going to be as comfortable to ride. And I will inevitably take the easiest, I mean, the slow, calm route. Because I've planned enough time to get where I'm going, and that's how I want to get there. So I really recommend going to that site. It also links you with other trails in the area. There are trails in Fitchburg, there are trails in Middleton, Sun Prairie, and so on. There are trails to Verona. Some of that is torn up this summer. We've got a kind of a bad situation. They're doing sewerage work on the southwest side of Madison, and it's closed off some of the trail system. So we're going to have to wait until next year to take some of those conveniently. But one of our frequent rides is to Verona using those trails. And so I just wanted to make you aware that that was there. Larry had a comment a few minutes ago. I don't know if he's still on, about the congestion on the trails, and he's a big fan. Larry rides totally for transportation. I think that's his means of getting around, and the trails can even get pretty crowded. And ever since COVID, I think, when people just started really working out and exercising a lot, lots of hard, fast bikers on the trails as well. And sometimes I think they forget the rules of the road and forget to be cooperative with the people that are walking their dogs and those of us that are putzing along, enjoying the day. And it can get a little bit dangerous and congested. So it looks like Larry, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would prefer to go on streets rather than trails. Is that right? I don't know if you're, yeah, there you go.
It does depend, Jim. If I know the streets and if I think that is the safest option, yes, I'll take them. Many of the places I go on a regular basis, it's really safest on the back streets, watching for parked cars, opening doors, intersections, pedestrians crossing the street. Just being properly cautious, yes. It can be done even in the wintertime. It's worst in the wintertime, of course, because the paths are cleared more than the back streets are cleared. And
right.
If you get into a rut of ice, you better be prepared to stay in that rut for a long time, or to get ready to put one foot down to stop a fall as you come up against the edge of it. Low speed, ever alert, ever cautious, considerate, polite, etc.
Back streets are really rough in winter. And I don't want to give the wrong impression. I mean, I'm not a big winter biker, but if I'm getting stir crazy and it's been a while since it snowed, and I know that they do a real good job of clearing the trails, that, if I feel comfortable, and I'll usually drive my bike to the trailhead or the entry point on the trail. So I'm not riding on city streets in slippery conditions, because I just don't feel comfortable doing anything like that. And I sure don't recommend it. I don't use it for transportation in the winter to get to the store or anything like that, by and large. So anyway, that's all I really wanted to say, is we have a great trail system. I want to give a shout out to Christy, my daughter there, who's at her office today, and who really made my life a lot more livable during COVID, when she, number one, convinced me to get an e-bike, and number two, said, "Hey, Dad, let's go for bike rides." And so we went out several times a week, at the last summer in the midst of it, and boy, for relaxation and just to removing anxiety. And if it weren't for Christy, urging me to get out, I wouldn't have started that great habit. So thanks, hon. And anybody else have any questions? Let me know, or let us know.
I actually had a couple quick things to mention about the safety side of things. And I know that
Yeah,
Michelle mentioned helmets and the 3 to 4 year. It is really important. Lots of the technology has changed with helmets in the last 5 to 10 years. So if you have a 10-year-old helmet, likely there are much safer options for you now. So it's constantly changing, as well as if you did fall with your helmet, if it took a hit at some point at any time, you really should replace that helmet pretty much immediately after that has happened. So that was just my one quick add to and plug for, obviously, go buy a truck helmet. They're lovely. So I happen to work for truck, so
That's true. That's true.
I have a quick question. So one of our neighbors has gotten an e-bike, and he was explaining to me that sometimes he keeps it, he just uses it he doesn't pedal that much. He just uses it with the throttle, because he finds that when he tries to put a little assist on it, that then it seems to, like, lurch. So is there some trick to, like, e-bikes, or is that a problem, or is there a learning curve to learn how to use them?
yeah, there's a little learning curve to it, and it doesn't take too long, but I recommend going on an empty parking lot or a quiet street. And not all e-bikes, I don't even think most e-bikes have that throttle feature. The one I have is pedal assist only.
Okay.
And I think everything that Trek makes and Electra makes are pedal assist only. So you've always got to be pedaling it, just like a regular bike, except that it's helping you. You feel, I get on an e-bike and I don't feel like I'm a 74-year-old guy. I feel like I'm, 40 or, a kid, again, on a regular bike. There is a learning curve, and most e-bikes have several speeds or several assist levels, rather.
Right.
And if you have it at the highest assist level, which they often call turbo, you're feeling it. I mean, you can really make that bike fly, and you've got to get used to it.
Okay.
But I think your neighbor, if he did practice with it a bit, it's second nature like anything else.
And one thing that you've mentioned too is you actually like to have the pedal assist on at an intersection, so you can actually move a little quicker into the intersection.
Yeah.
When you can go. So
yeah. Actually, on the higher levels, you feel more control of the bike once you get used to it, because you can really control it at low speeds, accelerate quickly if you need to. And so it's like starting, your car at an intersection in first gear. You don't start it in high. So anyway, I think it's a pretty easy thing, but you do have to practice. The other thing you have to get used to with most e-bikes is that they're quite heavy compared to regular bikes. Now, Christy has one that's a real sporty high-end e-bike that is actually lighter than many non-electric bikes, even with the battery, but that's pretty rare and hard to find.
Christy's got connections.
Yeah, she's got connections.
it's also not the most comfortable bike, so I suggest going with the heavier one generally. So.
Yeah.
And
the other thing my neighbor mentioned was he really appreciated I don't know what you call it, that scooped, where it's more like
it's called, it's called a step through as opposed to step over. Step through.
Because he's older and he really can't swing his leg over that bar anymore. So
that's what I bought. I got a step through, and it's, as Christy can tell you, they're really marketing step throughs now, just, not just as girls' bikes, but as bicyclist age. I had to give up a bike that I loved because I just couldn't swing my leg over that top bar anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like they're no longer women's bikes. They're considered step through because, I mean, I think that it's less women riding in skirts these days, right? And more just for mobility needs. So, and I can tell you that we sell a lot more step throughs than step overs for e-bikes especially. So
it's a step through.
Step through, yep.
Yep, Margie?
Well, my daughter needed a new bike about a month ago and found one. They're difficult to find now. There aren't as many available during this time, but I was looking around because I'm still riding my 45-year-old Schwinn Latour. And what I liked about that is that the bar went down. It was kind of a unisex bike at the time.
Mhm.
And when I was looking at the new bikes, it seemed like the bar was always more of a man style bike unless it was an e-bike. Now, is it just that I was not seeing all the models that were available, or is that true?
I think that that's true. You're not seeing all the models that are available.
Oh,
We certainly have
okay.
a lot of our comfort bikes, not e-bikes, are going to have that step through option still. But yes, supply right now in bicycles is not good at all. So, you know, I can tell you that we've done very well in the last year and a half here in my business. But right now, inventory is very, very low and bike shops are next to empty. So we're still shipping a lot of bikes, but half of them are already pre-sold. So if you're looking for a new bike, get on the list and you'll get it. But, you know, it is tough right now. So
She did find the Trek she wanted.
good.
Yeah, but she only had two. There were only two available in the store.
It's,
you know,
she's lucky she found it. I mean, right now, unfortunately, bike shops, if you go into your local bike shop, many of them are going to be next to empty. So, but give it time, they're catching up. So
can I first of all, thank you, Michelle. I learned some things. This has been very interesting. And Christy, I looked in the chat. I see you work at Trek. Which store do you work?
Oh, I actually work at their corporate headquarters. So I work in finance in their Waterloo headquarters.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
And just a word to the wise, all these bikers here, I biked my whole life, and it'll be in August, it'll be 2 years since I had almost a fatal accident here in Madison. And I know I had my guardian angel with me that day. So since that, I tell other bikers, I've learned the hard way, you are not safe in a crosswalk. I mean, you know, it just was the perfect storm of bad things that happened, except that I did survive. So
what's your first name?
Joanne.
Joanne. Well, what would you tell us the circumstances?
Oh, okay.
How it happened?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was going to go a short distance. I was on my way to the Y on the west side. I was crossing Whitney, and yeah, and I'm usually a very good judge of car distance and speeds. So this woman was heading south from about where the Beltline is, and it curves around there, and I judged that I could make it. Obviously, I don't have a death wish. I'm usually very careful. And I was looking straight ahead, and my front tire actually touched, you know, where it goes from the bike lane to the sidewalk. So I was almost onto the sidewalk, or, you know, where it goes from the street to, there was just a little strip of grass there. I don't know what you call that, but anyway, my bike was fully in the bike lane, because at that point, the bike lanes stretched from 5 feet to 11, between 11 and 12 feet. I went back and measured it months later, but so she not only hit me in the crosswalk, but my entire bike was in the bike lane, and she totaled my 50-year-old Peugeot that I loved. And when I became conscious and saw that bike, that was most upsetting to me. But, you know, they wanted to call an ambulance, I heard people say, and I said, no, because I had a trip planned to see my grandchildren in California for a few days later. And I thought, oh, we can just, you know, I felt on the top of my head though, and I could see by the amount of blood pouring that it was probably not going to be a steri-strip fix. And anyway, I was 5 days in the hospital, had 2 months of severe vertigo. This recliner was my 24/7. I only could get up with a walker to go to the bathroom. I was allowed. So extreme vertigo, had therapy. She said I was a very challenging case because it affected both sides. And then I was very resentful because this was, you know, prime biking season and I was stuck in my recliner. And you can't, my son-in-law is a neurosurgeon and he couldn't believe that I survived this wreck. He just couldn't believe it. And he said, no screen time, Joanne. And so all I was allowed, my neighbor got me books on tape so I could listen to. And so the other tip is I was very worried about what's this going to cost. And I thought I was on my bike. This driver was not insured, of course. And I found out later she had a very long criminal history and drug abuse history. And so I thought, this isn't fair, you know, but because as Michelle pointed out, if you're on a bike, you are a legal driver, and at least my car insurance did cover it because she, you know, I had insurance and she did not. So thank God for that. And happy ending. I'm on a bike. I need a new bike though. That I just got a bike too quickly, and it's not really the bike that I really love, but I need to bike shop, and I know it's a short supply now, but I also need to get a helmet. And thank you for all the information. I made myself go back in that crosswalk on my temporary bike just to face my fear and, you know, kind of, but I am very cautious now on busy streets, and I don't trust crosswalks. I'm super cautious. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
Joanne,
sharing
thanks
your
for
story.
sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Boy, I know the area you mean. We live over on the southwest side and I cross Whitney now and again. And again, I try to stay on the overpass, you know, bike paths, but you can't always do that. So
It's extremely shocking to be hit at such a speed. She lied. I know she lied. I know she was going between 40 and 50. It's common on Whitney. And like I said, it was just like, bam. And I immediately lost consciousness just because of the impact, I guess. And it was just so shocking. So anyway, yeah.
Glad you're
I'm
all
glad you're back.
So I'm wondering, what do you think is the most common road violation that bicyclists commit? I mean, it's not like bicyclists are angels, right? People
Blowing
fly
through
through the
stop
stop
signs.
signs all the time.
Stop signs.
Yeah,
Every
if you have clear vision on both directions and you think, well, why stop? There's absolutely nobody coming. I'm tempted to do that myself, but you know, it's important to obey all the rules. But here I was obeying the rules and I still got almost killed, you know. So it's scary out there, but
Every time I do a chat or a presentation, whether it's to a common council or to a group at a music event, and I've got it's between set change, every single time I do anything, somebody shouts out, yeah, people biking never stop at the stop signs.
yeah.
So that's definitely the one that I always hear from everybody. So
Thank you.
So anything else? Let's call it a day then.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you
hey,
so much,
everybody.
Michelle.
Yeah,
Very
it's
much
nice.
Michelle, it's
appreciate
been
your advice.
Michelle,
excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have
everyone.
fun on your bike.
Thank you.